The noir genre has had a lasting effect on media. From movies to comics to games, there's always been something for everyone to grab a hold of. But Backbone tells a different story. It ditches the cliché noir narrative for something more intense. I'm Alex Bradshaw, and here are my thoughts and feelings on Editing Alex here. They changed the name of the game while I was finishing this video. They changed it to Tales Noir, and not Backbone, which is honestly a worse name, but whatever. So if it sounds weird in some places, it's because I had to dub over Backbone. But you know, enjoy the video. It's just another case for P.I., Howard Latour. He's sent to a nightclub to investigate yet another cheating dirtbag. All signs point to The Bite, one of the most popular clubs in the city. It won't be easy. First he has to get in. Hey, so I don't have a ticket. Any chance I can just come in?
No.
Act 1 wastes no time showcasing Backbone's graphics. And wow, this game is beautiful. The sprites, reflections, the way our character moves and interacts with the environment, it flows perfect. In this day and age, even with graphics getting better and better, it's refreshing to see developers, especially indie developers, really try to keep things fresh. Hey there, friendo. I hear you're just the guy to get people into The Bite. Fuck off. I'll do just that. After doing some not so subtle searching for a way in, hey man, I finally got a ticket. Let me in?
Did you dig this out of the trash?
He runs into an old pal, a down on his luck dude named Larry. Hey Larry, oh my god, how have you been?
Well, you know.
Larry's an addict. And homeless. He now ordered a cordial, but you can tell he kind of resents him.
So, Howie, how's that big fancy job treating you?
Well, I got to move out of my mom's house. Despite the slightly awkward chat, Larry points him in the direction of somebody who may be able to help him out. One of the local drug dealers. He's selling this hot new drug called monkey butt. So, why do they call it monkey butt?
Take a wild guess, pal.
The dealer convinces the bouncer to let Howard in. Once in, he strikes up a few conversations with the Bite's patrons to see if he can locate the whereabouts of Jeremy Green, the cheating dirtbag mentioned earlier. Unfortunately for him, one of these patrons was the Bite owner herself, Clarissa Bloodworth. Once he realizes who she is, he tries to smooth things over, but she's not too happy about him investigating her patrons, so she tells him to kick rocks. After he's kicked out, he runs into his friend Bo selling newspapers at his newspaper kiosk. Bo's a big rabbit. Oh, everybody in this game is an animal? I think I forgot to mention that. That's like really important to the story, so if you weren't picking up on that, like now you know, at least. Howard asks his big rabbit friend if he can climb his newspaper kiosk to get onto the roof of the Bite. That way he can weasel his way in without being noticed. No pun intended. Bo really doesn't want to let him climb his newsstand, but agrees to do so if he gets rid of his competition. A poor child selling newspaper down at the street corner. See that kid? Yeah?
Break his legs.
Howard very nicely and non-violently asks the kid to politely go sell somewhere else. Leave.
Aww.
Bo thanks his friend for bullying a child laborer and allows Howard to use his stand as a jungle gym. Once on the roof, Howard breaks his way back into the Bite, crawling through vents, past corridors, dodging employees, all trying to look for answers on the whereabouts of Jeremy Green. After wiggling his way past some security, he finds himself in a dark, dank basement. His nose immediately alerts him of a foul odor. Follows the scent to a very private room, and there he is, Jeremy Green, cut up into pieces. After once again hiding from security, Howard makes his way out of the Bite, opting to get wasted in the park, trying to wrap his head around everything he just saw, heard, and smelled. Just as he's right on the edge of wasted, a handful of Clarissa Bloodworth's goons come and knock him around a bit for snooping. Come on, fellas. You wouldn't hit a guy in a trench coat, would you? He awakes to find himself on the couch of Renee Wilson, a foxy lady he met in the Bite. Throughout the game, you're given different dialogue options whenever Howard is in conversation. This doesn't have any plot significance, but it does help get a sense of what the game intends Howard's personality to be. You start to see gameplay mechanics take effect on Howard's personality. When he starts interacting with Renee, when he talks to random street people, there's this stereotypical pull to have him be flirtatious with Renee, but if you don't want them to be, they can just be platonic. Renee took Howard in after seeing him escape the Bite. She gives him a proposition. They partner up and get to the bottom of what Clarissa Bloodworth is doing. She's an author by trade, writing political commentary on the corruption of their city. She hopes that a partnership with Howard will lead to the truth. After some deliberation, they form a plan. Howard needs to make his way to a part of Vancouver called Gastown and track down a fake cider van that, according to Renee's hunch, is carrying the cut-up flesh of many of the missing citizens. Renee heads home, leaving Howard to stay overnight at her safe house. Avoiding the hay, Howard drops his friend Tolly a line, asks him for a ride to Gastown.
Howie, baby, my best man. What can I do for you?
Hey Tolly, I need a ride to—
Look at you, big man, always needing a ride somewhere. Tell you what, I'll head to your place, we grab a bite, I'll get you where you need to go.
Well, cool, but I'm not—
See you tomorrow, Howie.
Gastown is potentially one of the most charming sections of the game, if you can look past the whole investigating into cannibalism thing. This area allows players to have more interaction with NPCs. My favorite and only example is when Howard strikes up a brief conversation with an elderly man whose wife passed away, only to find an older woman just 10 feet away, also in need of some companionship. Howard introduces them and they start feeding birds together. It's these small additions that really give this game a certain charm.
So, you like birds?
No.
After some pursuing of the local shops, he witnesses the off-brand cider truck delivered to a local winery. The owner, Louis, feigns ignorance. He claims there's nothing out of the ordinary and that Howard should just be on his way. But Howard Latour ain't no fool. After some pressure, light threats, and some mild reassurance that Howard won't talk, Louis lets him investigate the shipment. And right there, stacks and stacks, just underneath the crate's lid, the vile stench that he knows all too well. Howard confronts Louis about the crates. Once again feigning ignorance, he claims that they're just illegal fish fillets from the black market. Please, sir, I have a family. We all got families, punk. After some prodding, Louis reveals that he's only recently been aware of what Clarissa was doing. But when he found out, he couldn't bring himself to say anything. His sister is very, very sick. The medicine that will make her better is too expensive. Clarissa pays for the medicine, he hides her goods. He's ashamed, but he doesn't really have any choice. Howard is sympathetic, or at least I decided he would be, and asks who the next shipment is for. Her name is Bajwa, and she's expecting a shipment of cigars. Howard tells Louis to hand him over. He'll be looking into this Bajwa character.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Latour, and may Shepard guide you.
Yeah, thanks. Howard arrives at Bajwa's luxury apartment complex, taking a brief moment to convene with the desk clerk, Finn. He welcomes Howard, but is reluctant to let him enter the building without being a resident. Howard, with all the charm and confidence one raccoon man can muster, politely informs Finn that he is, in fact, a delivery boy. He all but says, "Oh, well, why didn't you just say so?" and immediately gives Howard her floor and room number. Howard, the conversational master that he is, asks Finn how he likes the job. Finn very politely replies that it's a great place to work and it's a beautiful building. But you don't, live here, right?
No, of course not.
Doesn't that kind of bum you out? Listen, pal, I'm just doing my job. It could be a lot worse, like being a delivery boy. Howard thankfully takes the hint and unassumingly makes his way up to Bajwa's apartment, but not before having an odd conversation with a rather sultry wolf.
Ever heard of a wolf job?
What? As he reaches the floor, he's greeted by Miss Bajwa right outside her apartment. And well, turns out the apartment isn't hers. She's just the housekeeper. But Howard didn't come all this way to leave empty-handed. He rushes to the building's fire escape and climbs to the apartment's window. Before entering, he's called out by a fine, provocative woman smoking some catnip. She offers him some, hinting that he should invite himself in, but unfortunately he has to refuse. He can't give up this lead. Not to, give anything away, but knowing what I know and what he's about to go through, he'll have wanted a hit or two of that catnip.
That's a nice ass, cutie.
Thanks, I grew it myself. Once inside, Howard discovers that the owner of the apartment is none other than the science minister, one of the most high-ranking officials in the city of Vancouver. He watches through a cracked door as the minister and all his fat cat compatriots, no pun intended, feast on the flesh of the poor. Just as he's about to leave, the minister's snot-nosed brats come into the room.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
Nothing?
Oh, okay.
Howard, thankfully smart enough to outsmart two grade schoolers, leaves the apartment without a scratch. Once at the safe house, after reviewing all their evidence, Howard and Renee come to the conclusion that Bloodworth and the science minister are in a mutualistic criminal relationship. She supplies him with all the lower class scum he can eat, and he keeps the cops off her tail, no pun intended, so she can keep her drug empire up and running. The Prime Minister is an ape. Apes are the dominant ruling kind in the world of Backbone. They believe they were given some divine assignment to keep order, making it essentially impossible for anyone but an ape to hold a position of power. Hence why Clarissa is so fond of their partnership. It's the only way she can get things done. But unfortunately, their investigation isn't over. Many people have still gone missing, and Howard needs to make his way to West End to put all the pieces together and start asking around for information. After some pretty stable leads, Howard confronts a woman named Beverly about her missing daughter Leslie. She wants nothing to do with him. Howard, not wanting to make her any more upset, waits for her to leave for work so he can ask her son some questions. Surprisingly, Beverly's son Henry is very informative. He tells Howard about his sister's friend May. She lived in town and she's also gone missing. He even gives him a direction in which to look. Thanks, Henry. You're a good kid.
Does my mom know you're here?
After what is realistically not a long time to be looking for someone you don't know, he tracks down May's house and is confronted by her brother, Samson. To put it lightly, Samson is a mess. He's completely distraught over his sister's mysterious disappearance and is very skeptical of Howard's involvement. After some very harsh words about Leslie and then even threatening to slit Howard's throat, he informs them about a third girl, Rose Kamiko, who he thinks manipulated his sister and Leslie into leaving home. He suggests that Howard finds Rose's mom, Florence. She might have some of the answers Howard's looking for.
Now get the fuck out of here!
I'll do just that. After yet another conversation with the locals, Howard is directed to the town factory where Florence works. So, will you get the hell out of here? Fine! She rushes him home, hopefully to answer some of his questions. Florence and Howard chat a little bit about Rose and Leslie before she lets him take a look around Rose's room to see if he can find any clues about her disappearance. Howard logs onto Rose's computer and finds documents and documents about her hatred for her life within the wall, hating how she feels trapped and judged by society. Her last document is actually a love letter to Leslie. The letter states that her boss, who we assume is Clarissa Bloodworth, has a way to get them outside the wall. A way for the two of them to live together and to be in love. She ends the letter by asking Leslie to think about it, but no matter what, they're staying together. Howard tells Florence about what he finds. He can't guarantee that Rose will come back, but that Florence should at least know that she's most likely safe. Howard and Renee sit on the couch of the safe house. Howard's tired, beaten down, carrying the weight of all the city's anguish on his shoulders. Renee leaves Howard for the night so he can get some rest, only for Clarissa Bloodworth and her goon to break their way in the moment Howard's alone. In short, she offers him a job. He works for her, and he gets the truth. Win-win. He refuses. He says he'll never work for a dirty crook like her. I'll never work for a dirty crook like you. After being kicked around by her goon, Howard wakes up and immediately calls Tully. He asks Tully to give him a ride to the science center tomorrow.
I need a ride to the science center tomorrow.
And for a gun.
And a gun.
He's done taking it slow. He's going to find everything that Bloodworth
and the science minister are doing on my own terms.
Howard bullshits his way through the tour of the Science Community Building, a structure that essentially is a self-sustaining biotower for the ultra-rich. The tour not only covers the development of the city, the facility, but a being called the Shepherd. The Shepherd is quite literally their god. He determines their fate, damns them if they do wrong, and is said to be the one who built the wall to figuratively and literally protect his followers from the malicious influences of the outside world. Do I even believe in the Shepherd? He sneaks away and runs into one of the building's lead scientists, Eddie. At gunpoint, he threatens to kill him if he doesn't cough up some incriminating information about the science minister, something that once leaked will give him no deniability. After what seems like an eternity of threats, Eddie tells Howard about a secret lab. If you don't show me, I'm gonna shoot your arm, then your leg, then your other arm, then your other leg, then your foot. The lab is filled with many disturbing sights. A large mutated gecko, some sort of bulbous amphibian, human skull, and the most disturbing, a lizard man. All Howard can ask is why.
It's the artifact. I control it. I teach it.
Show me. Here's the interesting part, folks. The artifact is of this world, with the human skull, the shepherd, the apes being the ones in control. It's all been pointing to this, the artifact, and what it represents. In short, Backbone is a post-apocalyptic noir story. It takes place thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years in the future, where humanity needed to splice its DNA with that of animals to adapt and survive. There is no shepherd, and there probably is no real danger outside the walls. There's only the rich and the fact that they're close enough to human that they think they can do whatever they want. But that's all about to change. Eddie gestures to the room containing the artifact. Howard enters the room and puts his hand on the glass tube containing the strange organic material. The artifact breaks from its container and wraps itself around Howard's body. Cut to the street during a parade as flashes of Howard's life are depicted through parade floats. We get imagery of him with many arms, devouring smaller versions of himself. A real look at the shepherd and its terrifying might, and the most cryptic and horrific of all, Howard and the artifact becoming one. Tully waits for Howard at the end of the parade. Suddenly, Howard collapses at Tully's feet. He runs to his friend, only to be impaled by the bulbous, rippling biotechnology breaking its way through Howard's clothes. Tully is dead. Howard wakes up in a tent, the artifact slowly merging with him more and more, now speaking to him within his own mind. But then Larry walks in, telling Howard he's been out for a few days. Howard wants to leave. He needs to leave. He needs to warn Renee, but he can't. He has nowhere to go. He's an abomination. This gives Howard nothing to do but mingle about the camp. He's cold and scared and alone, but strangely, they welcome him with open arms. He spends hours helping around the camp, getting to know these down-on-their-luck folks, even getting to meet the man that helps people over the wall.
Am I
scary? Nah, dog, you good. In those moments, Howard has never been more confused, scared, and hurt in his entire life, but he's also never experienced such a warm sense of community. But that doesn't last. He wakes up in an enclosed room. He's covered in bandages, the grotesque artifact rippling out of his back. He walks up to the only window in the room to see Clarissa Bloodworth. Howard demands to know what is going on, and she regretfully informs him that the artifact is a gene-splicing organism. It splices and rewrites DNA to create new life. And now she finally has it. He begs her to let him go, to give him freedom, but she shuts him out. Howard spends days being studied by scientists, particularly one scientist named Belle. He tries to appeal to her humanity, for lack of a better term, but she doesn't care. She only cares about the science. Day after day, he's sedated and tested on, and every day, his connection to the artifact grows stronger and stronger. It informs him that they are one, that his perception of reality isn't black and white, and he's becoming something entirely new.
Death is impermanent. We
become. Tired of wasting away and being tested on, he uses one of his bandages to cover his mouth as they fill the room with sedative gas. And it works. He's still kicking. Belle opens the door to find him still conscious. Terrified, she gives him the keys to let him go, but not before he demands to see the test results. I have zero idea how to read this. We cut to Clarissa at the bite as she lies through her teeth during a conversation with the science minister about the disappearance of the artifact.
Where'd the artifact go?
After the call, it's revealed that Clarissa is there to meet Renee. Now we get to play as Clarissa Bloodworth. Renee is worried about Howard. Clarissa informs her that Howard escaped and that they can look for him. With the artifact gone, they can start a revolution, and they, together, can tear down the wall. Clarissa wants Renee's help. She's perfect for starting a revolution. And strangely enough, this has always been Clarissa's plan.
Why didn't you just ask me in the first place? Where's the showmanship in that, darling?
Renee doesn't know what to think, but she doesn't say no. She goes back to the safe house praying that Howard is okay, and in one final act of goodwill for her friend beyond the wall, she gives his mom a call. Howard walks from a hut in the land beyond the wall. His tumors grow ever larger as he limps into the vast, empty fields. The further he treks, the more the remnants of a dilapidated and torn-down civilization appear. Once he's inside of what appears to be a city of ruin, he collapses to the ground. His tumors grow and envelop him. Howard pulses and shifts, and if you look closely, you can see something new start to form on Howard. A backbone. The first time I played this game, I was radically, horribly disappointed. The game just ends. They have all this build up with what feels like no real payoff, and in all honesty, the problems I had when I first played are still problems. Whoops, let me just, okay, all good. I have post my second playthrough and recording this video and writing the script, but I was able to gain a more of an appreciation for the environment, for the atmosphere that Tales Noir brought. That's just not something that you really see. I really appreciated the use of the dialogue options, those kind of gameplay mechanics, but it all falls short when this big subversion falls flat. I have a lot of respect for changing things up, diverting a narrative, but when it doesn't have a satisfying payoff, there's not really much point to it. But outside of that, if you think that Tales Noir looks interesting, despite everything that I've said about it, I think you should play it. I don't regret playing it. I think it was a wonderful experience. Howard is a very interesting character. He's just brought down by what is not the most sophisticated narrative. There should have been more of a focus on NPCs. There should have been some sort of side quest system. Cliffs of Bloodworth was really interesting until she stopped being interesting. She's very ominous and threatening, but when her character arc turns into her being some sort of anti-hero, it takes away from the thrill of her character, especially when she could have just recruited Renee and Howard the entire time. It almost devalues the mystery of this. The post-apocalyptic setting is very interesting, but like I said, the moment it's introduced, it just disappears. And that's just not very satisfying for a player. It wasn't very satisfying for me. Tales Noir has so much that makes it great, but is dragged down so heavily by its own mistakes. It prevents the audience from truly connecting with the game. It's not perfect, but I did have fun. The only reason it's so disappointing that it falls off is because I enjoyed the ride so much. But fortunately, Tales Noir story isn't over. Earlier this year, they released a prequel game called Tales that is a whole prelude story about Clarissa, Renee, Howard, and then some other character right before Tales Noir's events. Maybe it'll help fill the gaps and make the story overall a lot more satisfying. As frustrated as I am with how the game ended, and as much as I really desperately want a sequel, I can't deny that I'm hungry for more.